How to choose hub? How to choose hub? How to choose hub?
Hello, my name is Alex. I'm a pre-sales engineer at Ajax Systems. Welcome to the Ajax Pro channel. Has this ever happened to you? You've been tossing in your sleep trying to figure out what is the best hub for your particular installation? Well, this is your lucky day because in this video, we're going to discuss how to choose the hub. Let's get to it. We would suggest thinking about this process of choosing the right hub for your particular purpose by thinking about it through 7 different prisms, starting with the most important one, the specific certifications. We have various hubs, and all of them are compliant with regulations. Namely, there are Grade 2, Grade 3, EN54 standards. Which one is correct one for your particular case? That's the first question to ask yourself when you're choosing the right hub. Now, the second point would be to think about the wired or the wireless architecture that would be appropriate for this project. Of course, Ajax shines when it comes to the wireless solution, but we also have a fantastic wired one. So you need to think about the communication distance, you need to particularly elaborate on the point of how you would like to lay your wires if that's appropriate. So this is something to think about in the second point. Now, the third point to consider would be about the scale of the project. You might be using it with just 2 users, right? Just a wife and a husband, or maybe 10 of those, or 100 of those. That's the point about the users. The second thing here is, of course, the coverage area. Maybe you would need to utilize a couple of range extenders to cover even the most ambitious projects with that setup. Or, of course, we can even diversify this setup and divide it into different segments with different groups and utilize scenarios. So we have a lot of flexibility when it comes to the third point when we're talking about the scalability of the system in general. The fourth point would be about very interesting dimension within our ecosystem. It's about the photo verification. If I'm a user and I'm just utilizing this particular functionality, wherever I am in the world, I can just simply request a photo from my house, from my office, and get peace of mind like that. I'll know that no one's there. So this is a very cool thing we have. On another note here is the monitoring company. If they have access to the photo verification devices, this will be reducing the cost for them to just deploy the rapid response unit needlessly. So that's a very interesting flexible feature we have in our ecosystem. And of course, guys, I'm talking about the photo verification, but what about the video verification, right? This has nothing to do with the hub itself. It's linked to our space, to our ecosystem. And so if you just install Ajax cameras, you will have that cool feature. All right. The fifth one, it's about the communication channels. We have the basic hub, the original hub that was released like a decade ago, and it's still very popular. It has the SIM card communication and the Ethernet. Sometimes you might want to rely on the Wi-Fi as well. Broadly speaking, we have 3 communication channels available throughout the ecosystem: the SIM cards, the Ethernet, and the Wi-Fi. Some hubs, they can utilize even 2 SIM cards. And of course, you can utilize the Ajax SIM card with the hubs, which is a great solution too. The sixth aspect would be about the autonomous operation. Of course, all of our hubs, they have an option of being connected to the external battery, and they can function up to, say, 15 hours if you're talking about hub 2. Also, we have other options, and we will consider them in more detail throughout this video, so stay tuned. And the last one, but not the least one, the 7th one, is about the option of connecting some of our hubs to the external antennas. Such an option will allow you to effectively overcome the situation where maybe the hub is blocked by some metal grid or things of that nature, so we give you more flexibility with our external antennas. Great. This is our checkup list. These 7 points, we're going to be comparing all of our facilities throughout that list, and we're going to decide which hub is the best option. By the way, right now, we're at one of those locations. As you can see, unquestionably, this place is lovely, this house looks fantastic, and so people who live here, they didn't really care about the EN54 compliance or Grade 3 compliance, right? So we're going to choose the hub that is compliant with the Grade 2 standard, which is also a very solid choice. Now, the second point would be about the wired or the wireless architecture. I mean, once again, guys, this looks fantastic and phenomenal, so we're going to choose the wireless hub. Let's think about the scale of this project. This looks incredible, but thinking about the sheer volume of it. There are many users here, and also we're going to be using a lot of devices, but not more than 100 of those. So we can choose even some wireless hub, maybe even hub 2. Let's see. The 4th one, photo verification. Yep. The hub 2 has the photo verification as well, and it's pretty cool to have that as you get peace of mind having the photos of very fine nature, and you can actually request them whenever you need if you use the photo-on-demand devices. The 5th option though would be about the communication channels, and this is where we're going to rely on the Wi-Fi. So we're choosing the hub that supports Wi-Fi. That's why Hub 2 Plus seems a better option here. Let's think about the sixth option. It is about the autonomous operation. Actually, there were no battery life requirements here, so we can choose essentially any hub we would like, thinking about this sixth option, and the customers will be satisfied with it. The seventh is about the external antennas. There is no need to have it because we are in a beautiful house where a lot of connectivity is available for both the jeweler wings and of course the communication channels like Wi-Fi and cellular too. So, we're going to be choosing the Hub 2 Plus here. In this particular house, we utilize a lot of automation scenarios because we have a lot of automation devices of Ajax nature. We'll show it to you just in a couple of moments. And of course, it only makes sense for us to use the Hub 2 Plus because other hubs would have fewer scenarios. Let me walk you through some examples. First thing first, you can use this scenario of the so-called master switch. We have the light switches of our own, and we can connect them to other light switches, and when you go out, you will be turning off one light switch, and with that, all the lights will be turned off throughout the entire building. Another thing worth mentioning is the fact that we have the flooding prevention system. It operates with a couple of different devices. You can utilize the leaks protect and the water stop. And via the automation scenarios, these two can be paired up. So if the leaks protect device gets in contact with water, the water stop based on the alarm from leaks protect will just shut off the water supply, and you will be safe with your apartment or facility or the house. What's kind of striking as well is that our system can be paired with the fire and life safety solutions. So within the Ajax ecosystem, we have our own fire protect devices, and they can also participate in the scenarios. Here, we created two scenarios. One is for the emergency lights, and the second one is to turn off the power grid in case of the alarm. If there is the fire alarm, all the lights of the emergency nature will be lit, and the power grid itself will be turned off, making the house much safer. Clearly, we've been talking about a lot of scenarios indoors, but we have some outdoors too. So let me show you just that. We jumped to our gorgeous backyard, and what we can do here is actually control our irrigation system. We can have two ways of doing that. First of all, of course, we can do it via the scheduled scenarios. Maybe every evening we would like to run those scenarios to make sure that all our plants here have enough water. But second thing we can do, we can actually run the scenario manually from the application. Let me do it with our water stop device. I'm just going to activate it, and we're going to have the irrigation system up and running. See? Fantastic. That is super cool. Unquestionably, Ajax is a fantastic security solution, but what we also have is the flooding prevention system and other coils of functionality that are available to you via the application. Currently, you can witness how our flooding prevention system functions, but in this case, of course, we would like to make sure that everything is flooded. What's also cool is that here in the outdoors, we can find the gates and additional gates that lead us specifically to the garage. We can create this scenario when disarming the system, they will open up automatically. Right now though, I'm gonna activate them manually via the application. So we have two relays, one for this one and the other one for the garage gate. Let's start with that one. They're activated and we can see them in action. And then of course I can activate manually the gates on that side. Let's do just that. Also activated beautifully. Once again, we see our beautiful landscape here outdoors, some fantastic trees, gorgeous flowers, and we also have created here these scenarios for automation for these street lights over there, right? Of course, I can create this scenario by schedule and say at 9 p.m. they will be activated automatically. But the second thing I can do, I can navigate to my application and activate them manually. Let me do just that. Beautiful. Furthermore, we can activate the same type of scenario at the playground, where we also have installed Ajax Relay with some lights. We take a look at this solution through the prism of 7 different points, and Hub 2 Plus was the best case scenario here. But of course, let's say, for the sake of the argument, we were to choose just the hub, right? Then we would end up having just 5 scenarios, and of course we wouldn't have the Wi-Fi connectivity, maybe even the amount of users wouldn't be up to speed with our goals. That's why Hub is not an option. Let's say Hub 2, that's a good solution here, yeah, but of course only 32 automation scenarios might be a hassle going forward. That's why, once again, Hub 2 Plus is a perfect case scenario here. With that being said, of course, we have other hubs, other cases to consider, so let's jump over to those and see what we can do there. We have arrived at the office where we can see the people are hard at work. let's think what kind of solution would be appropriate for such a setup. We have a checklist, so let's cut to the chase. First thing first is the certifications. This particular building requires the Grade 3 compliance solution. And yeah, of course, we have such hubs in our lineup. What kind of architecture we would like to rely on? Of course, the wireless is preferred, but we also have the wired Grade 3 compliance solution. But of course, when you see such building, you have ceilings and the finishing is already done, you would like to not disrupt it. So you will go with the wireless solution. And interestingly enough, Ajax released the first in the world wireless Grade 3 compliant security system. What kind of project scale are we talking about here? Now, this specific building is quite big. So there are 3 stories we have here, 3 floors, and we would like to cover it entirely with just one security system. We can do that. We have Rex devices and the system is wireless, so we don't have to rely on any wiring. So that's pretty cool. How about the photo verification? Actually, that is one of the flagship features of our ecosystem, and we have the Grade 3 compliant device with the motion cam nature in it. It's right over there. What I can do even, it's not only taking photos on demand or by alarm if someone moves in front of it, but I can also cover it with something and test the anti-masking technology. And in the application, just based on this, I will receive the alarm and the photo because I have configured it. So that's a fantastic feature to have in the ecosystem. Let's consider the communication channels. Of course, the more the merrier, and here people required at least 2 communication channels. And we have a solution like that. Most of our hubs, they're compliant with this requirement. If we're thinking about the G3 compliant solution, it has the Wi-Fi, the Ethernet, and 2 SIM cards. Thinking through the autonomous operation, people here required 48 hours of autonomous operation. You might ask why? Well, to simply be able to go through any weekend without power outages affecting these people. Let's think about the external antennas. Those are actually unsung heroes of our entire ecosystem. Having those allow you to cover even the most complicated projects where the communication issues can be prevalent. But having external antennas will allow you to receive signal where it's not possible. We have such solutions, and for example, for our Hub G3, the ports are already pre-installed on the PCB. So thinking about all of these 7 points, we will be of course choosing the superior Hub G3 jeweler. We actually have a scintillating video about the G3 solution on our YouTube channel, so you can find it over there or take a look at the description below. Well, we're going with the Hub G3 jeweler for this particular setup. It makes perfect sense, and of course, the signature experience of working with Ajax is having the wireless connectivity on site. What if we could rely on the wireless architecture? Maybe it can already be in place. Now then, in this case, we can also choose, say, Hub Hybrid 2 solution, which is also, by the way, compliant with the Grade 3 certification, but we're talking about the wireless Grade 3 compliance system, which we're choosing here, which is simpler, effortless installation. You can also go with the wired solution too if you'd like. Remarkably, we also have the EN54 compliance solution. If any office needs that too, this should be a separate system. So one system would be the Grade 3 compliant one, another one would be the EN54 compliant. So fire safety and Grade 3 compliance would not be mixed in this particular situation. As I told you, this office is quite large. So we went with the Grade 3 compliant solution because first thing first, we needed that. But let's think about the smaller offices. You can go with the Hub, and actually the Hub is a very optimal solution. But if you need more out of your system, you can use the more performant hubs, like Hub 2 or Hub 2 Plus also would be great. Okay, that will be it for this office. And the next stop is a dark dungeon where a fearsome dragon lives, and we're gonna face it in battle. Just kidding. This is actually the underground part of the facility, the industrial one. We have other parts too, and we're going to install a system here. Let's see what kind of secret sauce we have to make sure that the solution functions appropriately. Once again, a lot of industrial or even commercial facilities have a lot of thick walls, and so the connectivity can be an issue at such setups. But let's think about this particular solution via the prism of our 7 options, our 7 points. Do we need to have the Grade 2 or Grade 3 compliance in this setup? Actually, this particular client had no requirements of such nature, so we can choose any Grade 2 compliant hub, but we're going to be choosing the Grade 3 one. Yep, this is the superior Hub Hybrid 2nd generation, and of course, the hybrid panel supports both the wireless and the wired connectivity. As for the project scale, we can use such panels for small, medium, or even large projects because we have up to 250 devices that can be connected both wirelessly and via the wired architecture. Clearly, we can use range extenders, and that's a fantastic option because we can utilize both the wireless and the wired architecture. Some spots will be covered with the wires. The other ones, the simplest ones, will be covered with the wireless one, so it's pretty good to have such options. Very powerful feature we have is the photo verification. And of course, when you have that, you can get peace peace of mind just tapping on one button in your application and having access to what actually is happening on site. Second generation panels, they all have that feature. Talking about the communication channels. This specific panel supports two of those, the Ethernet and the SIM cards. This allows us to use this hub in a spot where there is no connectivity, but we still need to provide some security solution to this area. The next component of our list is the autonomous operation. Clearly right now it's empty room. That's for the battery. So we can install the battery inside and we can have even up to a couple of days of autonomous operation depending on what setup we're using. So if we have just a couple of devices, yeah, clearly. If more, a little less, but still more than enough. And the seventh aspect would be about the external antenna. Obviously, I already referred to it. We do have it installed over there. And this is exactly the solution we needed because of the thick walls and general lack of connectivity in this particular spot. Of course, this is the real case. So I need to put the lid back on to make sure that the system functions appropriately as the customer would like for it to, of course. Let me try to cross all the T's and dot all the I's when it comes to the use cases of the Superior Hub Hybrid 2. I'm going to give you a couple of concrete examples. Clearly, that the Hub Hybrid can be used in the industrial facilities or some commercial property. The example of that would be, say, a warehouse. There's a lot of inventory in other types of goods at that warehouse. Maybe some liquids are stored there, maybe some construction materials, like some screws and other stuff. Those things can actually absorb a lot of radio waves. That's why the wired setup would be the preferred option. We can be at the facility that actually manufactures that type of stuff. Like it can be a printing facility, and there is a lot of heavy machinery there. And that heavy machinery is usually made of metal. And we would need to make sure that the radio waves are not an issue there. So we're going to use the Fibra solution, so the Hub Hybrid 2nd generation is perfect there too. To illustrate such industrial setups even further, we can think also about some shopping malls. There are a lot of people using those shopping malls, so it's a very high traffic environment, if you will, and we need to make sure that we can cover large areas with it. Fibra is the way to go about it because we once again don't have to rely on any radio connectivity and the wires are very resistant to blockers. Cool, it's all covered here, let's move on. We have come over to this location. This is the premium liquor store. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff happening around me here, and we can think about this particular location taking into account our list. Remember the checklist with the 7 dimensions, starting with the first one, which is the certifications. Clearly, this is a public place, so a lot of people walk in, walk out, and we have to think about compliance with the EN54 standard. And luckily enough, we have such a hub in our product range. This is the EN54 Fire Hub, so check on that one. Moving on to the wireless or the wired architecture. I mean, it just so happens that the Fire Hub supports the wireless one, and so that's the beauty of these devices of the Fire nature. And we have installed those here too. Talking about the project scale, of course, you can use the EN54 Fire Hub and solution of that nature with the small or even medium business, and that's a perfect solution for such cases. What's also cool is that EN54 Fire Hub and the EN54 Fire system in general, it's not just the Fire system. It's actually a combination of all of our systems of the Ajax ecosystem. So it's the EN54 Fire system, second is the security system, third one is the comfort and automation, and the fourth one, last but not least, of course, that's the video devices that can be paired with that hub, with that space. Now here we have the motion cam device installed, and so the photo verification is perfect for this solution too. The EN54 Fire Hub supports 3 communication channels. It has 2 SIM cards, Ethernet, also it can function from the Wi-Fi. If we take to consideration the autonomous operation, EN54 Fire Hub can work up to 24 hours or up to 72 hours. So communication is fantastic here, and the signal strength is also very powerful. So we don't need any external antennas, but yeah, that's an option for some other hubs. Here, we stick to the EN54 Fire panel, and let's move on to see how we install all of these devices. Obviously, we have a lot of things we can interact with the panel. Looks like an iPad, super simple to navigate. But here I'm going to focus on a couple of things. Not elaborating on this topic because we actually have created the entire course dedicated to this particular subject. EN54 on the Ajax Academy, check it out if you have a chance. You see the disablement feature activated, right? I can actually deactivate it from my phone. So I'm navigating to the device that is disabled, smoke sounder, it's partially disabled, and I can actually turn that back on. Let me do just that, and just save. And in a couple of seconds, it already turned off, which is great. That's just the first thing I wanted to show you. The other thing is here in the application. There is only one fire zone currently. It's called the main hall. But of course, if I would like to add additional devices, I can create additional zones and assign them to those devices. Maybe I would be creating the zone that is called the back room, or maybe equipment room, something like that. So all of these options are there. They can be specified in the device itself. So navigate into some device, this smoke device, right? And here I see the zone called main hall. I can navigate to it, and I can specify, like, the second one would be kitchen, or maybe something else entirely. So this is how you can specify it in the application. Now, when the device is assigned to that second zone, I can navigate to all the fire zones and find the second zone appearing here as active. Now I can navigate to it and change the name if I need to. As simple like this. Maybe I'll be calling it the back room, right? So just take a couple of seconds, and now it's changed, and it makes more sense for this particular room because it's clearly not a kitchen. As you remember, currently, we're at the premium liquor store, and we use the EN54 solution because the end customer required that, and that customer wanted to be compliant with the fire regulations, which makes sense. But of course, if the EN54 is not a thing for some particular facility or an account, you can use other hubs for a premium security solutions for the high security. Namely, it can be, say, Hub Hybrid 2nd generation, or maybe Hub G3 Jeweler 2. These solutions can provide you with the high security design of the system, and at the same time, they also combine various systems into one, like the security system, the fire protect devices of the resident's nature, and the automation and video devices can also be installed with such setups. Let's take a look at other peripheral devices we have installed here. Let's go. Now, this is a beautiful example of this synthesis of the security system and the EN54 fire system. And this is the motion cam device, installed and ready for action, in combination with the VAD from the EN54 product line. That's fantastic that we have this combination. We created an interesting scenario here. So when the manual call point is pressed, our motion cam device will actually take the photo. So we will verify it by the photo verification feature of our ecosystem. That's pretty cool because also our motion cam device is installed in front of our fire protect device. So we can actually see whether there is the fire happening on site. And I see that the photos have been already started downloading into the system. So we need to wait for a couple of moments and they will appear, and we can take a look at those photos to verify whether it is the alarm or no. Now the photo is here and we can take a look at that. Our wonderful team is doing our job. Yep, that's what it is. Great. So as you can see, we have combined two different systems into one solution. Now what I have here is the EN54 Fire Hub, and right at the top, I paired it with the smoke detectors and visual alarm devices from the EN54 product line. Below that, I have paired it with the security system. So we have the door protect device, motion protect, the keypad that you can take a look at here. And also, of course, we have the home siren. Now, of course, you saw this motion cam device. It's the last but definitely not least on my list here. And I can actually take a photo on demand if I need to. That's super simple within the Ajax application, which is a very snappy one and user-oriented. Now, of course, that's just one of the hubs, which is compliant with the EN54 standard, but we also have other hubs, and we're going to be moving on to another location to explore it with a rather interesting case. We have arrived at this next location, and this is actually a construction site. I do understand that the facade looks pretty phenomenal already. It's almost completed, though the interior finishing has not been completed, and we have installed the Hub BP here. Let's take a closer look. It's actually a great case in point here. It's really coming down out there right now. Heavy raining and all that, but with Hub BP, we're still safe. We basically don't care if the power grid gets completely turned off because we have our batteries and they completely cover us in this facility. Once again, let's think about this particular solution through the prism of 7 different points we have. Starting with the certifications. I mean, take a look at that. No certifications basically are required except for the grade 2, which this hub is certified with. Second point would be about the type of architecture, the wireless or the wired one. Once again, take a look around. The finishing touches hasn't been completed yet here, and relying on the wireless technology is much better option for this particular scenario. As for the project scale, I mean, we can scale up to 100 devices. We can utilize 50 users, 9 groups, more than enough, 5 racks if for whatever reason you need to cover other buildings that are adjacent to this one. Pretty cool solution still. Hub BP rocks. Clearly, Hub BP supports photo verification, so it's all covered in that. So moving on. Communication channels. Now, that's a very interesting point, especially when we're talking about the hub BP, because this control panel supports only the SIM cards. It has 2 SIM card slots, and we can utilize both the Ajax SIM and the third-party SIM cards if we need to, because this supports the automatic APN settings. This specific building is located in an area where we have a lot of cellular connectivity, so with 2 SIM cards, we're more than covered. We have our hub BP to consider, and the point we're trying to cover is the autonomous operation. So battery power saver mode is a very cool feature we have in our ecosystem. It can be turned on for any hub, but with hub BP, it becomes particularly relevant. Why is that? Well, because the hub BP can rely only on the batteries. We have 2 of those that can be installed, the internal ones and the external ones, and we will be relying only on power from them, right? So what is the battery power saver? This is when the communication channels are basically turned off to preserve the battery life. So the SIM cards, they will not be sending any information to the cloud. So the hub kind of appears offline. Actually, it appears in the saving mode. But all the devices on site, they're still connected wirelessly to the hub. And if anything happens, if any intruder gets on the site, we will get the alarm, we'll get the activation. The hub basically wakes up and sends all the alarms, all the photos to all the users, to the monitoring station, so everyone will know that something had happened. But once again, battery power saver exists for us to preserve the battery life. And this is super useful for this panel. Interestingly, this is actually the Ajax battery. It's the 36 ampere hour one, and it can function for months and months. The hub BP itself can actually calculate the number of months or even years that the battery can function for. Because with the latest updates, this is how we approach this particular setup. We want to make sure that this is a very precise setting, a very precise calculation, and to do so, the hub constantly recalculates this information. This is just one of the batteries we have, one type of the battery. We have others, the Ajax batteries, but you can choose using other types of batteries, the third-party ones. We actually have a list with those batteries in our manual, so you can take a look at that and understand which is best. The point here is, of course, about the battery life and the autonomous operation. So the bigger the battery you have, the longer the hub will work. The last point would be about the external antennas. The hub BP can be connected to 3 of those, wings, jeweler, and cellular, and the ports for those are already on the PCB. Now, what's interesting is that we have utilized here our case E. So we put our hub BP not in its native casing, but in the case E. But why would you need to use some external antennas, right? Because in certain situations, you would be installing the hub BP into some metal casing. And in that case, you would need to utilize these external antennas to make sure that you still have connectivity, both cellular and the radio connectivity on site. We provide these various options, and this makes the entire setup very flexible for any type of installation. Well, I would like to showcase some scenarios and some setup we have created here on site for this particular hub BP. Let me show you that, but before we go, please give me the lid and let me close the hub BP because we're actually done here. We have installed the hub BP on second floor here because we found just the perfect sweet spot for it, where it's equidistant from all the devices that we have installed all around the facility. Many of those are on the first floor, but one is covering that device, the control panel, on the second floor. Now, we have armed the system and the hub is asleep. What we can do now is Mr. Operator is going to be moving in front of the detector and is going to wake the hub up. He's going to take the photo and send it to us. Great, the hub just woke up. And now we see that we received a couple of series of images. We can tap at any one of those, take a look at the Mr. Operator who is triggering the device, and our entire YouTube team is there in the shot. All right, let me disarm the hub real quick here, not to trigger it needlessly, because currently it's not asleep, so we have access to the settings. I'm disarming it. And let me just walk you real quick through all the devices that we have installed here. Of course, clearly, we have the motion cam installed that we just triggered. On the opposite side, we also installed additional motion protect devices to cover, well, the opposite side once again. And there are other areas of this particular building where we have other motion protect devices, and even door protect device is installed at the entrance door. Of course, we have also installed one outdoor device in order to make sure that the first line defense is covered outdoors. And that's a perfect solution. This specific case is about the house where people will be living when the construction is completed. Though at the same time, it can be an entirely different project, where maybe this is a holiday house and people will be visiting it, well, maybe just briefly in the summer period, right? So the vacation property will be vacant for extended periods of time, and we need to make sure that this solution can function without the power grid. Additionally, the power grid can be destroyed maybe there is the overhead power line and some tree has fallen onto it, and so essentially the house has no power grid now, but with Hub BP, it doesn't matter. The solution will still function and very effectively. There are various options we can provide power to this essentially powerless system. We can use different kinds of batteries with Hub BP, and we're using Hub BP, right? But maybe we would be using Hub 2 Plus for whatever reason. Maybe it would be an entirely different project, and we started without thinking about the uninterruptible power supply. Later on, we can actually disassemble the Hub 2 or Hub 2 Plus and replace the initial PSU with the alternative one, which can also take power from the battery. So different options are there, and of course Hub BP is perfect for this particular solution. To bring it all together, we considered a lot of different cases throughout this video. We took a look at some construction sites, at the storage facilities, maybe even at some places where people actually do live. A lot of those you can use to apply in your own complicated projects. And by the way, guys, we have these 7 points that you can see on your screen. Feel free to use those when thinking about your projects. Undoubtedly, the main takeaway is that each hub is unique, but you can always find your perfect solution with the needed setup. Guys, hit the subscribe button, like the video, turn on notifications not to miss any new updates. And of course, if you have ever encountered any complicated solutions, any complicated projects in general, feel free to let me know, let our team know about those in the comment section below. We're always super excited to hear your thoughts, opinions, and we're always happy to help. Thank you for watching. See you later. Cheers.